survey in the National Crop Nutrition. So it's an honor for us, ma'am. You are here, and I welcome you, ma'am.
Hi, can you all hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, good evening. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, ma'am.
Yeah, so I'll just share my screen. Okay, can you all see?
Yeah, it's visible, ma'am.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get into the, okay. Yeah, so good evening, everyone, and thank you for the introduction. So my topic is basically hydroponics, which is gaining a lot of momentum nowadays, and people really want to learn about this technique. So I am just giving you a very brief overview on hydroponics in a very scientific, as a very scientific approach. So is it okay if I just switch on my video? Yeah. Okay. So coming to coming to understanding the aspects of growing plants. Now, largely when you talk of conservative methods of growing, or when you talk of hydroponics, nothing but understanding what the plants need to grow. So if you understand the basic requirements of plants, first is the soil. Now, if you try to understand what is soil, you just say the word soil. Soil is nothing but the loose surface material which is there, and it consists of a lot of inorganic particles, lot of organic matter. But what is important is what it does for plant growth. One thing is provides structural support to plants. That is, it holds the plant roots together. And the another important function is it is a source of water and nutrients for plant growth. So there are numerous other functions also of soil, but when you're talking of plant growth, it does two main functions. One is it provides structural support, and it is a source of water and nutrients. Now, that was the one major aspect of plant growth, which is the soil. What other things that are required by plants to grow? You need water. They need time, means the season. There is a seasonal requirement for plant growth. Light is an important factor. Sunlight is needed. They also need the proper temperature. So along the season covers the temperature as well. They need nutrients, which is their food. They need air, which they take in gases from the air. They also need proper room to grow. That is, you need the proper type of container or proper growing medium for them to grow. Now, when you talk of hydroponics, or when you talk of growing soilless, what is the difference? When you compare these growing parameters, when you compare these essential growing parameters, what is the difference? Do you need light? Yes, you need light in soil grown or the conventional agriculture. You need sunlight. In hydroponics, or when you talk of this new technique, which is soilless, you can use sunlight. You can also use artificial light. So there is a lot of growing that happens where sunlight cannot reach. So they use artificial lights. Temperature is a requirement. Yes, in soil growing, you need the temperature, the proper optimum temperature. In hydroponics, you can regulate the temperature as per the plant need. Food, which is the nutrient that you're going to provide the plant to grow, in normal growing or in the conservative way of growing, you need those nutrients. In hydroponics, also you need the same kind of nutrients. Room to grow is the space. The soil grown plants also need proper pots. If you're growing in, like, say, as a hobby grower, or even if you're growing commercially, they need the proper pots or the proper space to grow. In hydroponics, also you need the space to grow, which you modify in in the form of a bed or a pot. Water requirements are the same. The plants need water to grow, and in hydroponics also the plant needs water to grow. Now, this was the basic requirement of plants, what it needs to grow. Now, when you come to hydroponics, you have to understand hydroponics simply in three questions. So you have to get answers to three questions. What is hydroponics? Why do you need to do hydroponics? And how do you do it? So if you want to understand the whole technique, you just need to get answers to these three questions, which is what, why, and how. So if you have to understand, it's such a big concept. People feel that, it's a new thing that has come in, and hydroponics is some magic that is happening, and, you can just get in profits and profits, and you can just grow anything, anywhere, anytime. So let's just understand that what is hydroponics. Basically, it is made up of two words. It's basically means to grow in running water. Hydro means water, and where you're growing plants in water. Now, if you see, it's an alternate growing technique. So you are using this technique to grow plants. You are not using soil. Instead of soil growing, you're using an alternate technique. But whether you are growing in soil or whether you're using this alternate technique, does the plant requirement change in terms of light, in terms of nutrients, in terms of temperature or water? No. The basic plant requirements is the same. The plants need water, they need the optimum temperature, they need the optimum nutrients, everything, the light, the hours of sunlight, hours of darkness, everything remains the same. So whether you are growing in the soil or whether you are growing hydroponically or you're growing soilless, the basic plant requirements are the same. They do not change. One more important thing, very, very important, hydroponics is not organic. Your entire hydroponic is based on inorganic nutrients. Your entire nutrient solution is made up of inorganic nutrients. So you cannot label a hydroponically grown produce as organic because the definition of it does not conform to the definition of organic. Yes, you can call it. It is residue free because since you concentrate so much on the growing part of it and they grow so well that yes, you reduce the usage of pesticides. It's not that you don't use it at all, but it is drastically reduced. And another important thing is it's not magic. Once you understand the technique and once you get your answers to these basic questions and you understand it, you can do it yourself. It's not very expensive. It's just an alternate technique, which when you understand it, you can absolutely use it. A little bit about history. People feel that it's a new technique and people have just started using it or it's just been discovered. So then no, that's not the case. Hydroponics has always been there as early as 1627 to 1699 to the Aztecs, to the one of the seven wonders of the world, which was the Hanging Gardens of Babylon and all. All over in these places, you could actually see this technique being used. However, the term hydroponics was first coined in 1937, which also is relatively not new. So in India, again, it was introduced in 46. So the entire idea of giving you this information is that it's not a new technique. It's just that now people have felt the need to go into this technique. It's not a relatively new technique. Now, to understand why do you need to do this? Now, before understanding the advantages of this technique, let me just give you a brief background as to why people started looking into this or started searching for these alternate methods of growing. So one is we all know this entire thing that the world population is exploding, it's expanding, and it's growing at an exponential pace. And the current available land that is used for growing food will not suffice in the in the coming few years. In the near future, we will have to we will have to look out for alternative. It will not be sufficient to grow food, and it will not be sufficient to grow enough food to feed this entire expanding population. Hence, the reason for people to look out for alternate spaces or fallow lands or waste spaces or spaces in the cities where they could grow food, where they could utilize them. Another major reason was, though we have certain amount of land which is available right now for growing food, that very land because has the soil in those places where they were growing food already, they were growing food, has now become infertile, has lost its fertility. The reason being the overuse or abuse of fertilizers or agrochemicals that people just went on using and using. And in turn, what has happened is the soil has lost all its fertility. In certain areas, the soil has become so infertile that you cannot even reclaim those soils back. So now, if you see the scenario, the existing land that was available to grow food was limited. As it is, it was limited. Adding on to it is the infertility of the soil. That means if you just depend or wait or depend on the existing land for growing food, you are going to have a huge problem of food scarcity. You will not be able to feed the entire population that is expanding. So the reason for looking out for alternate techniques was this was one major reason. Second was the climate change, where you have to transport food from the field to your plate. It's a kilometers long distance, and there's a lot of carbon footprint that's left behind. Another reason for people to look at spaces near the cities to grow food was this carbon footprint. If you can grow well within the city or very near to the cities, you save a lot of time that is spent in transporting food from fields which are kilometers away to your plate. So that was another reason. Food wastage was another reason. Food quality was one more reason. Another important reason for people to look out for an alternate technique was water. Water was not being available everywhere. So when you do it hydroponically, you actually even conserve water because you can reuse the same water for a period of time. So these were some of the basic reasons as to why people were looking out for an alternative technique. Another, now coming to the technological advantages of this as a technique. So you have improved nutrient uptake. Now, why do you have this? This, if you understand it in a little more deeper sense, the nutrients, the food nutrients that you provide in hydroponics is in a form that it is very easy for the plants to take it up. Okay, so it is not like the way it happens in the soil. In the soil, they have to utilize a lot of energy to go in search of food, to break down the complex food and then take up. Whereas in hydroponics, because you have firstly you have no soil, you're giving everything in the dissolved form. Okay, you're giving it in the amount that the plant needs it. So the nutrient uptake is much better. Second is soil, no soil-borne diseases. As I already told you that yes, you can use the term residue-free because you have a drastic reduction in the usage of pesticides in this technique. One major reason being almost 70% of the plant diseases are soil-borne. Now, if you do not use soil, okay, if you're not using the soil itself, all the soil-borne diseases you have done away with. So there is a reduction in in fact there are no soil-borne diseases that can attack your plants. Second is now we all are moving towards AI and ML learning systems and smartphones and everything you want to monitor at the click of a button, everything. So all these things keeping in pace with the changing times, you can control and automate your system to any degree. Maximized growing space. As I told you, space is a major issue. People are looking out for utilizing the space to its, maximum. Now, in terms of growing food, what do I mean by maximized growing space? This, in simple terms, means growing vertically. In the same square foot of an area, you can grow vertically in tiers and double or triple your produce. So that is what you mean by maximized growing space. So instead of expanding only horizontally. In hydroponics, you also expand your yield vertically. Less nutrient loss because whatever you're added is taken up by the plant root. Second, soil chemistry is very complex. So you have a lot of issues like fixing, leaching when you have soil growing. In hydroponics, you do not have any of these issues because there is no soil, there is no complex soil chemistry. It is simple nutrient recipe which you make as per the plant growth stage and the plant requirement, and the plant can take up most of the nutrients that you are adding. Stable and high yields, of course, because you are giving what the plant needs. The plant is taking up the nutrient deficiencies much better. All this will lead to faster growth. Okay. So we've answered two important questions that we started with. What is hydroponics? We understood it's an alternate growing technique. Okay. Why do you need to do hydroponics, or why are people looking out for alternate methods of growing? Now, coming to how do you do hydroponics, or how do you grow plants hydroponically? Now, this is the answer that you need to understand. I'm giving you a brief overview of all the techniques or all the processes that you can use in hydroponics. So, broadly speaking, you can divide this term or these techniques into two: water-based growing or substrate-based growing. Okay, so you can have certain systems which are completely based on water, and you can have certain systems which are based on substrate, but the substrate is not soil. So that is why you can also call it as soilless farming or soilless growing, because whatever substrate you're using is inert and it is not soil, but it is doing the function of soil. It is providing support to the plant. So that is called as soilless or substrate-based farming. Now, to understand a little about water-based systems, see, this is a very simple system. You must have seen these kind of systems where you have a pot and the roots which is holding your plant, and the plant roots are just dipping in water below. Now, let's modify this a little. This is the water below is nothing but it's nutrient water. So whatever nutrition, whatever food, whatever salts that you have to provide to your plants, you will dissolve it in that water and the roots will be dipping in that water. This is the simplest type of a hydroponic system, which is called as the Kratky system, or you also call it as a deep water culture. DWC stands for deep water culture, wherein the roots of your plants are just dipping in the nutrient solution. Second water-based system is Dutch bucket system. Okay. Now, in this, what happens is you have your plants in buckets and you have your nutrient solution which is flowing through it. Excess solution gets drained and there is an outlet which collects all the excess solution and it takes it back to the main tank. Okay, so from the tank where, so it's a basically like a cyclic system. You have a nutrition tank and from there you are pumping the water to all the buckets. Excess water is collected back from a pipe and again comes back to the main tank. So that's the Dutch bucket system, which is a circulatory type of a system. Third type of a water-based system is NFT, which stands for nutrient film technique. Okay, it is little different. The concept is similar to a Dutch bucket, but what is different is instead of buckets, you have pipes or you have channels wherein the water flows through these channels and the excess water is collected from the other end and then it flows back to the main tank. Now, one major difference is nutrient film technique where you are growing in pipes. This system you can use for leafy vegetables. You cannot use for any fruiting vegetables. Like you cannot use NFT for tomatoes. People do use it, but then it is not really advisable because the growing space, remember, room to grow is an important parameter. So here you will not get enough room for these long plants to grow. So it is good enough for leafy vegetables. You can grow all your leafy vegetables. You can grow lettuce, basil, or pak choy. All these leafy greens can be grown in nutrient film technique. Dutch bucket is more for fruiting vegetables. Okay, now the fourth type of a very common system is ebb and flow. Now here again, what you do is you fill your growing tank with the nutrient solution. You fill it, you completely submerge it and you let out the water all at once down to another tank, which is called the collector tank. So this you can have cycles of flooding and draining, flooding and draining. That's what is called as ebb and flow. Now this ebb and flow system is most likely used in nurseries where you're raising saplings. So this ebb and flow system is used over there where you flood the entire tank and you drain out the entire water all at once. So again, it's a cyclic system. So this is how basically in hydroponics you conserve water. There is nothing left to waste. You are recirculating it. You are the nutrition solution is flowing in a very cyclic manner. So that is how you conserve a lot of water in hydroponics. Now, these, as I said, these are also called as circulating systems, or you call them as active systems. Okay, so because you start from the nutrient tank and you end at the nutrient tank. You don't need to add nutrients every day. You have to check. There are certain parameters that you need to check, and you just have to top up. So you don't even have to fill the entire water again or fill water every day. You don't have to go and hand water them. You don't have to do any kind of foliar spraying on them. Nothing of this sort is done in water-based systems. Now coming to these substrate-based systems. So if you see, they look very similar to soil growing. So you have these systems where you fill your entire trough with a substrate, okay? And You can put drip lines to these kind of systems. You can have them in pots as well and then put a drip line to it. The only difference is instead of soil, you have an inert substrate. Now, in India, the most common substrate that is used is coco peat. Okay, though you have some rock wool, which is, but it gets very expensive. So the most common substrate that people use is cocoa chips or cocoa peat or clay balls, which is used as a substrate. Now, here what happens is when you give in the nutrient solution through drip lines, you cannot collect any excess solution. It does not circulate back. Hence, you call it as open to waste or non-circulating systems. They're also called as passive. So whatever nutrition that you're adding, if there is any excess, it will just go down. It will go to drain. You can't collect it back. And it's very similar to soil growing. So this is how these are the different kinds of broad systems that are used in hydroponics. Now coming to the most important aspect, which is the nutrients. Your entire hydroponics is based on the kind of nutrients and the amount of nutrients that you provide. Now the end line of hydroponics is, or what hydroponics is based on is, you are giving the plant exactly what it needs, when it needs, and in the amount that it needs. Okay, this is exactly what you do in hydroponics. So you compare this with the child which is growing up. Okay, so when you have a newborn baby, it feeds only on the mother's milk for some months. You don't have to give it anything from outside. Okay, as it starts to grow a little, you give it little mashed food, semi-solid. Slowly you introduce him to solid. Okay. When he becomes like a teenager, you give him more food. His body requirements change. He gets into the adolescent stage. His the food requirement changes. And when you have a full grown adult, his needs are different. So the plant also, if you compare, goes exactly to the through these kind of stages. You have the sapling stage where you just can. So basically, you start with the germination, the germinating stage, which can happen in water. You can germinate the seed in water, only moisture. You don't need to give any nutrient at that stage. And once it grows a little, it can still survive only on water because the seed has stored food with it. So you don't need to give any nutrients from outside. It will grow to certain, let's say, 4 to 6 leaf stage. That is what a sapling is. In the sapling stage, you can just give it exactly what it needs, which is the vegetative stage of the plant growth, which is when it needs to produce more and more leaves. Okay, which is the green stage of the plant. So you have the vegetative stage. Once it crosses the vegetative stage, it starts to flower. Okay, that is the reproductive stage. It is entering into its reproductive stage. So once the plant starts to flower, it needs different kind of nutrients. And after flowering comes your fruiting stage. That is again when it gives you fruits, when it gives you the fruits that you want. So that is a fruiting stage. So you have the fruit setting, you have the fruit development, and you have the fruit maturity when you will pluck it out or when you will harvest. So all these stages are the common growing stages in the life cycle of a plant, and at every stage the nutrient requirement is different. So if you give it exactly what it needs, when it needs, and in the amount that it needs, it is going to be healthy. And hydroponics basically will concentrate on the growing aspect. So in hydroponics, you are only concentrating on having healthy white roots. Which are the roots? Healthy white roots are the roots that are going to absorb nutrients. And the better the plant is in nutrition, the lesser it is going to be prone to diseases. Again, the growing is vigorous because little energy is diverted into searching for water and nutrients. The plant in the soil, as I told you earlier as well, that it has to go in search of water and nutrients, and for that it needs to spend energy. In hydroponics, because you're giving it readily available food, so it doesn't have to go in search of water and nutrients. Second important point is the nutrients are already in the readily available form, so it does not even have to wait for the nutrients to come into the form that it can take it up. So both these processes are overcome in hydroponics, and hence all the energy that the plant conserves, it will divert towards production. and hence you get better yields, better quality yields, and faster yields with hydroponics. Now, because we're talking of nutrients, there are almost like 16 to 17 essential nutrients that are needed for plant growth. Out of that, the three, which is carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, you don't add as a nutrient in food. The plants get it from the atmosphere, the gaseous exchange that takes place, and the water that you're going to use. Apart from these three, there are other major and minor nutrients which you have to provide them from fertilizers. Okay. Now, these are a little technical, but you need to understand that the plant needs all of these nutrients in all the stages of growth. So there is no exception. You have to give it. N stands for nitrogen, P stands for phosphorus, K stands for potassium, Ca stands for calcium, Mg is magnesium, sulfur. Okay, these are macronutrients in terms of the plant requirement. The plant needs these six nutrients in much larger proportion as compared to the ones that are mentioned below. We also need macronutrients and micronutrients as human beings in our diet. Similarly, plants also need macronutrients and micronutrients in their diet or in their fertilization program. So in micronutrients, you have zinc. Zn is zinc. Fe is iron. Cu is copper. Mn is manganese. Mo is molybdenum, and B is boron. Now, remember this, that all of these 12 nutrients that are here, they are essential. That means you cannot eliminate even one. If you don't give even one in the fertilization schedule, the plant is not going to complete its life cycle. It is not going to be healthy. Now, in general, you have nitrogen, which is called as the leaf maker. So, in the vegetative stages, in the starting stages, nitrogen is needed in higher amounts. Phosphorus is called as the root maker. It is needed for healthy growth of roots. And potassium is called as the flower maker. Now, this is for layman to understand that these three major nutrients play important role in leaf formation, root formation, and flower formation, and hence you need to give them. And you need to give all these 12 in all the stages. The amount may change. Now, when you talk of hydroponics, I'm only sticking to hydroponics. You have, if you are growing hydroponically, or if you have even studied a little or read a little about hydroponics, you will come across this concept of two-part nutrition and three-part nutrition. Okay, now what do you mean by this? Two-part is you have divided all these 12 nutrients, essential nutrients, in two parts. Okay, why two parts? You don't have one part for major and one part for minor. It's not like that. It depends on the compatibility of the nutrients. Okay, so you have one solution which has compatible nutrients out of these 12, and the other part which will have the rest of the nutrients as per their compatibility. And you have to mix both in equal proportion when you're making your nutrient solution, and then make up the volume with water. So that's how you calculate. So two-part nutrition comes as solution A, solution B, you must have seen. And this is not as major and minor, but it is as per the compatibility of nutrients. Now, coming to three-part nutrients. Now, sometimes you also come across this concept of three-part. Now, three-part is for vegetative stage, for flowering stage, and for fruiting stage. So, stage-wise, the nutrients have been divided, and as per their compatibility, they are mixed. So, this is what is commonly used in hydroponics. Now, as I told you, how will you know that the plant is getting enough nutrition? You have added once, especially in circulating systems, especially in circulating systems. How will you know whether you need to add more nutrients or no? So there is something that you need to measure. You need to monitor the plant growth. Of course, visually you can make out whether your plant is healthy or not. But suppose visually you have identified that your plant needs some nutrients. How will you actually come to know how much to add? Okay. So this is usually monitored by measuring two parameters. One is EC, which stands for electrical conductivity. And the second most important parameter is the pH of the solution. Now, these two are extremely important parameters that you need to monitor. Though you don't have to water every day, but yes, you could just very easy to monitor. So you measure it in a unit. I'm not getting into the details of the unit. You have a device which is readily available. You just have to dip it in your nutrient solution and it will give you the reading. Okay, you just have to ensure that the reading matches with the reading that you need for that particular stage. Okay, if it is not the same, suppose if your EC reading is less, okay, if your EC reading is less than what you need, you have to add nutrients. So if you're using two-part nutrition, you will add equal volumes of A and B solution and make up the volume with water. So that is how you will measure. Suppose you realize that your EC reading is higher than what you need. Okay. At that point of time, you're going to add plain water and dilute your solution. So EC is nothing but the measure of how much salt is present in your nutrient solution. So if you find that your reading is higher, you have to dilute it. If you find that your reading is lower, then you have to add more salts to make up the nutrition properly. Now, pH. pH, again, this is very easy to monitor as you have your, glucose testing kit, like a handy kit. Same way you get handy instruments for EC and pH. pH also, you just dip it in the nutrient solution and you get the reading. Now, if your pH has to be within the range of 5.5 to 6.5, if your pH is, say, normally it doesn't cross, but suppose if you feel that it has, if you see, if you measure, and you find that your pH is above 7, 7.5, above 7, then you have to bring it down by adding some acid. Okay, so normally you can add some phosphoric acid, or you have pH buffers you get, to pH adjusters, correctors, so that you have to add and get down the pH in this range of 5.5 to 6.5. Now, why do you insist on this range? Because at this range, all the 16, or sorry, all the 12 nutrients that you are adding will be taken up by the root. Okay. If the pH is above this given optimum pH range, certain nutrients may not be available for uptake. They undergo some changes and they will not be available for uptake, and hence there will be some deficiency which will be seen in your plant. Now, this is how do you get now? How do you make? So, most easiest thing to do is get ready nutrient solutions for hydroponics. You get all ready-made nutrient solutions. But in case if you want to go one step ahead and want to make your own nutrients, how do you get? So these are the sources. You get any sulfate, like you get potassium sulfate or you get magnesium sulfate, which is known as Epsom salt. Hobby growers may use this quite frequently. So these are kind of fertilizers that are available. You can get these and then make your own recipe, mix them and make your own recipe. Or you can also use organic fertilizers, which is recommended. You have to use your inorganic fertilizers, and in between you can use the seaweed extract or humic extract or any compost tea, liquid compost. If you have, that is just these organic fertilizers, they just act as stimulants. They will help your nutrients to perform better. Okay. Now, this is a lot of chemistry, but just to understand that there has to be a certain form at which the nutrients will get absorbed. And in hydroponics, the ionic form that you see on the right hand side already is present. So that is a readily available form, which hydroponics ensures that your nutrients are in the readily available form, and hence the uptake is better. Now pH and EC, I have already told you. So this is, if you see on the right, that's the device. You just dip it in your nutrient solution and you get the reading, and it's as easy as that. And this is a pH chart at which you have maximum nutrients that can be absorbed. Now, there are certain important key points that you need to remember when you are using these nutrients, whether you're using two-part, whether you're using three-part, whether you are buying solid powders and then making the solution at home, or whether you're taking the liquid from outside and then diluting it, or whatever that you're using. Remember that it has to be crop specific, because every crop at every stage has a specific set of nutrient requirements. There is a range, but yes, there is some specificity to that range. stage specific. What do I mean by stage? Whether your crop is in the vegetative stage, as I told you, in the vegetative stage, it needs more of nitrogen because it has to have a lot of leaf that needs to be produced. So nitrogen is the leaf maker. And so you have to have more of nitrogen, a little lesser amount of phosphorus and potassium, calcium, magnesium, sulfur again at a particular range. Okay. And then you have the micronutrients. So if in general your nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and calcium, these four elements vary quite drastically in all these stages. Micronutrients are more or less similar or common. The amounts are common across all stages, more or less common. But nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, calcium, they vary quite drastically. Another thing to remember is your nutrients have to be readily available. That means if you're using powders, they have to be completely water soluble. Only when they are water soluble, they will come into the ionic form, and the ionic form, it will be easy to absorb. They have to be readily available and you have to add them in the right proportion. So more or less, you have these NPK fertilizers. If you have a little knowledge about agriculture or plant growing at a commercial level, so you have this something like 16, 6, 4, 3, 20, 20. Okay, these are just examples of some fertilizers that you can use. So they have to be in the right proportion. Now, these are the available grades that you can use for hydroponics. Okay. Okay, now the plus points again for hydroponics is you have ready to use nutrients, you use maximum space, you utilize maximum space, and it's an environment friendly technique. There is no residues that are left on the plant in the soil, there is no soil that is being used, so you're not harming the atmosphere in any way. Now, where do you use hydroponics? To grow food, obviously, you searched for a technique to grow food. Okay, then where can you use this? You can use it in cities as well, in open spaces, indoors, garages, subways, people, because you can use artificial light for growing. Poly houses, yes. Raising saplings, which is a nursery business. Okay, nurseries which provide saplings to farmers for transplanting. It's another business, and you can raise saplings using hydroponics. Definitely, you have these cosmetic industries, you have medicinal herbs, you have your pharma industry to an extent, you have FMCG goods which use flavors, fragrances. So, a lot of medicinal herbs can be cultivated for the secondary metabolite or the active ingredient enhancement. You can use hydroponics to grow these kind of medicinal herbs as well. Floriculture or for growing flowers, whether you're using edible flowers, whether you're just growing them aesthetically, or whether you have a commercial value to it, you can also use hydroponics to grow flowers. Now, this will give you an idea about the scale at which hydroponics is being used. Okay, so you have these towers. You on the left, if you see, that's what you mean by maximizing the growing space where you're growing vertically in that same square foot area. On the extreme right, if you see, is a farm which is using artificial lights to grow food. That is the commercial level at which it is being done. Below three pictures, if you see, this is at the hobby scale or the hobby level where you can grow your own food. Maybe the volume may not be sufficient, but yes, you can grow enough for a small family of four, or at least some parts of the food that you're eating that you can grow. Now, I have answered some of the common questions when I was dealing with the topic. Is it organic? No, it's not organic. You can call it residue free. You can use certain organic stimulants or nutrients, but you can't term the entire technique as organic or the produce as organic. Do we use different kind of seeds for hydroponics? No, you don't absolutely use different kind of seeds. You use the same seeds that you would have otherwise planted in the soil. Minimum area for commercial growing depends on where you're going to sell it, but minimum at least 1/4 of an acre if you are putting up a greenhouse. Can I grow strawberries? You can grow everything. It's not that you can't grow, you can grow, but don't expect magic. They will need certain ambient temperature that they are grown at. Okay, if you can maintain that temperature, you can grow. Cost of setup depends on what is your technique that you are planning to use, whether you're going to go for a system which is going to be a circulating system, and are you going to fully automate it, or you're going to go for soilless growing with troughs and you are going to put up only drip lines or and not going to use any kind of sensors and all. So your cost keeps on varying depending upon what you have opted for. Do we have separate nutrients? We do not have separate nutrients in terms of what the plant needs, but then you have more of readily available nutrients. And I also shared you the sources of the fertilizers that you use. They are the same for soil growing as well. Does a plant cycle reduce in hydroponics? Yes. So in soil where you could have 3 cycles, in hydroponics you can have 4 cycles. That's how you get faster yields and higher increased yields. Quality and increase in yield, yes, since you have more number of cycles coming up, and also the quality, yes, because whatever nutrients you're providing, the plant is channelizing all this energy into nutrient uptake and into increasing its yield. So quality wise also it is better. So yes, now if you have any questions for me, I am open to taking up questions. Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Yeah.
So, dear participants, our chat box is open. So, those who are interested to ask any question, have any query, please ask. हे भगवान।
Okay, so there are a couple of questions. As and when I'm getting questions, I will just answer them. So somebody has asked me that what are the steps? Okay, I'm losing the questions. 1 second. What are the steps to set up a small commercial hydroponic farm? See, basically, when you talk of steps, you first have to analyze where you want to sell it. So my experience is don't start growing first and then go out and look for a buyer. If you want to set up a commercial hydroponic farm, do it the other way around. Try to see where you can sell it. You can then, and depending upon the buyer, okay, whoever is your buyer, you can go in for single crop or you can go for multiple crops, and according to the crops you can select your system. So absolutely do the other way around in a thorough business proposal study before you put your hands into this. Do not do the mistake of first growing and then go on looking out hunting for a buyer. How is it environment friendly? We are using chemicals. We are not, see, chemicals as in you're using chemical fertilizers in organic nutrients, yes, but as I told you, you're using it in very small amounts, in exactly the amount that the plant needs it. So whatever you're adding is being utilized. So it is not harming. Chemical, it is not those acids and other chemicals that are going to burn the plants and all. No, absolutely not. You take a lot of supplements yourself, those zinc supplements and multivitamins that you take. Are they organic? No, they are the same sources. You have zinc sulfates and these are the similar kind of sources that you take as supplements. So even when you use them for plants, and if you use it in an absolutely responsible manner, they are not going to harm the environment. And we do not use too many pesticides. Absolutely, if you are concentrating on growing, then you have lesser need for, say, pesticides. You are using absolutely bare minimum, and especially more of organic pesticides like neem oil and all. Okay, can you just help me, Shika? Can you just help me with the questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
So, can we get required nutrients from the crop grown this way?
Yes, you can. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. See, that thing changes. If the plant requirement has not changed, so physiologically it has not changed anything.
Okay. Some will the produce grown with this technique be branded as an organic product?
No, I have repeated it many times that it cannot be called organic. You can call it residue free, but you cannot call it organic.
Okay.
Hmm.
Ma'am, where I can apply cosmetic industry for internship?
So you have to approach the cosmetic industry.
Ma'am, present method are used most of people to prepare manure. So this method harmful for field.
No, I didn't understand the question. I'm sorry. I actually didn't understand the question.
What is meant by organoponics and what about anaerobic?
So, anaerobic bacteria, you don't actually use too many biofertilizers or any kind of microbes in hydroponic systems. Most of them are water-based systems. And if at all you want to, you don't basically use too much of biofertilizers as such in hydroponics. Any more questions?
No, ma'am.
Yeah.
So
So,
I want to say big thank you, ma'am. Your
thank you so
contribution made
much.
this session extraordinary, meaningful, and memorable.
Thank you so much. Mm. Okay, so is that all?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So can I leave or do you have some more questions coming up?
What about water, bone disease, and control?
So yes, waterborne diseases are not too many. If you actually do the technique properly, so you need oxygenation, also aeration in the water. And if you do that properly, you don't normally do not have any waterborne diseases as such for plants. Yeah.
Any training center?
I really don't know of any constant training center, but like people like me and others, we give trainings on a regular basis. So if you people have any requirement of training and if you can give me a batch, probably I could work it out. Shikha, if you people can sort of find out if they need any kind of training for hydroponics, then uh, we could work that out. So I think you can contact these people, maybe. Yeah.
So thank you so much, ma'am.
Yeah. Fine. And if there are any more queries even after the session, and if you can help me with the queries, you can get in touch with me. I can help to solve the queries as well. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to talk.
Okay.
Thank you.
Dear participants, please wait. Our next guest join will soon. Hello everyone. So now we welcomed esteemed guest Arab Khan, CEO of UAV System Private Limited. So I would like to share some of his achievements and insights. Mr. Khan has successfully executed projects for the Indian Defense Indian Agriculture Research Institute, Center Inland Fisheries Research Institute, Central Research Institute for Jute and Allied Fabrics, Karnataka Forest Department, Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare, etc. So it's an honor for us, sir. You are here, and I welcome you, sir. Hello, sir. Please unmute yourself.
Hi, Madhvi. How are you?
Hello, this is Shikha, sir.
Hi, Shikha.
Hello, sir.
Uh, Thank you for inviting me to this, online session, and it's my pleasure to be here. But unfortunately, while you were doing the introduction, I think there was some network issue, and I lost you for a couple of, I think, almost a minute. So, if you have any question, please let me know, and let me know how we can proceed.
Yes, sir. Please.
I don't hear any questions. I mean, is there anything? Because I lost you in the first few minutes, I could not follow your instructions. So please repeat if there is anything, if there is any question you want me to ask, or I'm just here to answer the questions or anything. Can you hear me, Shweta?
Yes, sir. Sir, please start.
Yes. No, I mean, I'm just trying to. What's the question? I mean, I mean, your introduction is over.
Yes, sir. Over.
No, I don't know the context of, if there was any question which was asked that I'm supposed to respond. But let me give you a brief introduction about myself and my company. And I'm really kind that you have already introduced, few kind words about me. So I'm the founder and CEO of UAV Systems Private Limited. We are in the business of drones and drones and ride services since 2018, and we are the one of the first companies to represent Parrot in India. Parrot is a manufacturer of a drone and multispectral camera called Mika Sense. Apart from that, I have been actively working on several projects for several government departments. Like I have mentioned about, like you have mentioned about Indian Defense. We have done some projects for Indian Agricultural Research Institute, CIFRI, that is Center for Fisheries Research Institute. We developed a special drone that can basically land on water and collect samples. I think this is one of the prestigious project we were being part of. Apart from that, we have done several, project-wise product development for institutions, even for the Indian Agriculture, Ministry of Agriculture, wherein we have actively done projects terms of I believe there is some network glitch
Yes, sir.
due to some I think the environment. Hi, Sikha. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. You're audible.
Okay. Okay. So I think there was some technical glitch and network issues. So as I was saying, I have wide experience working with multiple departments in terms of agriculture, fisheries, jute, Indian farming. So we have done several projects in terms of agriculture spray in multiple thousands of acres. We have done crop health analysis of multiple areas. So I think drone has a great implication, and it's a upcoming technology which could be very useful, especially in the farming sector, in the agriculture sector. And there has been a lot of push from the government in terms of various schemes has been launched to support the youth development in terms of piloting skills. We are also part of that initiative. So overall, I have a good knowledge and experience in the field of agriculture and drone allied services, and I'm happy to take questions, and I'm happy to share any further information if there is any required by any members or any viewers. So I would like to end my comments here. Thank you for having me, and thank you so much, Sika, for having me.
Hello, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, yes, Sika, you're audible.
Okay, okay, sir.
I think most of the people are muted here, so I think I have given my introductory speech. If anyone has a specific question, or if anybody is
Dear
interested
participant, dear
to
participants, our chat box is open. Those who are
learn
interested
more,
to ask any question, have any query, please ask in our chat box. So participants, if you want to interact with the sir, you can raise your hands one by one and we will unmute you so you can put questions to the sir. Or you can drop down in the comment section also.
So, hi, I see some questions coming in. Okay, whether drone can use for pond fish feeding? Yes, of course, it can be used. In fact, we have done some trials with Center for Fisheries Research Institute in Barakpur, West Bengal. So they had a requirement of automatic fish feeding, dispensing system. So there is I mean, in the within the tank of a drone, we can have a 10-liter or a 16-liter weight carrying capacity tank can be attached with the drone, and there is something called a spreader system. So what a spreader does is that you have a fish feeder that can be fitted into the tank, and by the use of a drone, it can just automatically map the entire say pond or area, and it can simultaneously go out there and spread the fish feeders into the pond as per the requirement. So this is very much possible, and we have done this in the past. If you have any requirement, please feel free to connect, and I'll be happy to share some info, and we can work together in this kind of a project. So yes, it is possible. And I'm looking into some other questions that people have. So the next question is, I do not know whether my question is relevant or not. What are the legal permissions and license required for the use in MP? Is there any differences in the permission and license? Well, there is a single user license. There isn't multiple licenses. Basically, you have to have a remote pilot certificate, that's called RPC certificate, that you have to obtain from a DGCA approved RPTO institution, that's called Remote Pilot Training Organizations, RPTO. Now RPTO is basically present in almost all the tier 2 tier 3 cities. I mean, they have a center in almost every cities in India, and you can reach out to the RPTO institution. You can Google, and you can also find this data on an online platform of a government DGCA, that is Digital Sky portal. So one can go out there and Google Digital Sky, and you can get the list of institutions who are offering the training program within your city. And I think you can just go out there, and it's a 10 days 7 days program where you can enroll and you can apply for RPC certificate. And if you need any support, you can reach out to me, and I can definitely help you out. Okay, I think Niyati Kumari has written a question which says, uh, what sensors can be attached to drone for agriculture purpose? Now, madam, I really want to understand what is the user application. You see, there are various type of sensors that can be attached with a agriculture drone. So basically, you can attach a multispectral camera. First, it is being used for spraying purposes, like people are using it to spray chemicals, pesticides, insecticides on the field with different categories, 10 liters and 16 liters and 20 liters payload carrying capacity. That is one purpose. Second is a spreader. You can attach spreader with the drone that can spread seeds. Third, you can add a sensor that is maybe it's a RGB sensor for a day user application. You can use a thermal sensors for a for collecting data in terms of thermal signature on the field. You can attach multispectral sensors with, say, four different sensors which can be used. I mean, there are endless numbers of sensors that can be attached to a drone as per the user application. So you have to give me a clarity on what is your requirement and how do you want to use it, for what purpose you want to use it on your agriculture drone or maybe some other applications. In one of the cases we have modified the agriculture drone and we made it a drone which can use water samplers from a lake and a river using it can land on a running water and it can drop down a bottle, a special bottle. It is attached with the sling, completely remotely operated, and collect samples from different areas of a lake. So that is one user application which we have already successfully implemented. So it all depends. Thank you. So next question is Vidya Kumar. Vidya Kumar, can I impact study on drone technology? Of course, I think. See, basically, I don't really understand what you mean by impact study on drone technology. But yes, drone is a vast field, and there are several categories of areas of operations, and you can definitely pick any one of those, and you can do a detailed study or research on any kind of drone technologies. And if you need some support, you can directly get in touch with me, and I'll try to answer you, because first I have to understand about it's all about the user requirement. I have to understand your thought process, and then I can advise to what would be the best study or what could be the best area. Thank you, Vedya. So Sanjeev Gupta ji, yeah, I know. I mean, there is some technical issues. I think people are not being able to hear clearly, or I don't know. I mean, now even I don't know if I'm audible or not. But I'm just responding to the queries. So anybody else? I mean, is there any queries? I mean, come on. I mean, you can just write down, and I will try to respond. Yes. Of course, you can get my number. You can note down my number. I just text it on the message as well. It's 9874235555. I repeat, 9874235555. My name is Arab Khan, Arabkhan. Okay, I repeat, 9874235555. Okay. So any queries, feel free to text me, and I'm always here. I'm always happy to help. So I think from the job perspective, I must mention that Indian agriculture department or the field is really booming currently, and there is a lot of potential and there is a lot of requirement coming in from Ministry of Agriculture. There are opportunities coming in from IFCO, a fertilizer company. There are opportunities coming in from NFL, National Fertilizer Limited, crypto. So there are a lot of companies who are now promoting drone as a service, and there is a great career opportunity if anybody is interested to learn more about drones. Learn how to repair a drone. I know someone. I mean, I can connect you to someone who are currently hiring or who are currently educating, even providing training facilities free of cost. But there are some definitely there is some process attached to it in terms of qualifying. But there are a lot of efforts being put by multiple companies to train this staff, train youth, and make them employable. And agriculture is one of the best and fastest growing division in drones especially, and it's not very tough. I really appeal to the listeners. I don't know whether it's the right platform or not, but I really want people to come forward, try to understand drone technology, how it's operated, and try to get those license from the government. And there is a very fair opportunity that you can get a job starting for ranging between say 20 to 30,000 immediately. So that is the kind of a scope is available. Okay, so I think that was one point I would like to really mention here to the listeners. So anything else, please? I mean, I don't see any questions. Anything else? So I see a question from Amarjit Kumar. Please tell us about training if possible. Yeah, so basically, I also mentioned sometime earlier that there are training programs run by various remote pilot training organizations, and I think you have to enroll into that program. And even we are also doing some pre certification training program where you can enroll and get a basic understanding about the principles of drones. We are also doing some workshops and training programs, especially in and around Delhi, Gurgaon, NCR. So anybody from Delhi, we can definitely help you out in terms of letting you more information about the training program and how you can enroll. So overall, you have approximately 15 to 20 days of pre-certification training program. Okay, we have several partners in and around countries. We have one location in Guwahati as well. So the approximation cost is around say 15 to 20,000 rupees for pre-program, pre-training program, and then if one has to, or would like to get a certification from the government, the certification process is it takes 5 days, 2 days online and 3 days practical on ground. And I think the actual cost on the market is around 65,000, but now companies and even government has come up with some discounted program wherein people are charging 35,000 rupees to 40,000 rupees per candidate to get the training certification. So overall, say 50,000 will be uh, a figure which is required to actually get a pre-certification skill development program and then enroll for a certification program. So I think overall 50,000 will be a figure which is required to invest in this program. So, and the duration would be say 15, 20 days here for the pre-program. And then once you are confident that you can go ahead and apply for the certification, I think that's additional 5 days training program. And there are companies who are also offering internship program where you can, join any company and then learn about the technology, take a stipend for say 2, 3 months, and then, you don't pay anything from your pocket. So I mean that could be also one another option. So anybody who is exploring this area as a career, I will definitely try to help you out. Feel free to ping me personally and I'll try to sort you out. All right, so another question is from Vidya Kumar again. I think, is there any training center in Karnataka? I think yes, there are a couple of there are few training centers in Karnataka as well as Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu. So the nearest one, I think, one is in Tamil Nadu, in Chennai. I think there is a I think Chennai Aerospace and Research Department is doing some training programs. Okay, I will double check in terms of in Karnataka, but I know somebody is doing in Hyderabad. So I will just Google, or even you can Google RPTO. See, the term is RPTO, Remote Pilot Training Organization. So if you say RPTO in Bangalore, so there would be definitely someone who is doing it. Okay, and if you text me personally, I'll give you the name and contact detail of those institution who will be further assisting you. Thank you. So there is a company called Multiplex Drone Private Limited. They are running training programs in Bangalore. The owner of Multiplex is a good friend of mine. Okay, I can put up a word to him, and you can reach out to them and get this program, enroll for the program. I think another good company is called Dronacharya. Dronacharya is again another one very good firm who is doing an excellent job. They also provide RPTO training in Bangalore. So I think there are two companies I have let you know, Multiplex. You can look into online Multiplex Drone Private Limited and Dronacharya. So there are two companies who are offering training in Bangalore. Yeah, Renuka ji, I think yes, of course, there is a training center in Maharashtra. You have to simply Google RPTO in Maharashtra. But I have just Googled. I found some information called Raja Ambapu Institute of Technology Remote Pilot Training Organization. They are based out of Maharashtra. Okay, so I mean RPTU is widely available in most of the cities. All right, I think you just have to just Google it and try to figure out, is there any pilot training organization within your city. You know. Thank you. So I think I have a question. Anybody who is already doing any kind of a involvement in training, piloting in drones? Anybody who is doing? Does anybody has experience in terms of flying drones, or any way engaged with any drone technology? Anybody?
Sikha, is there anything moving forward? Because I think most of the queries has been answered. And what is the format of this meeting moving forward? Because I think my part is almost done. I don't see any questions anymore.
Yes, sir. I want to say big thank you, sir. Your contribution made the session extraordinary, meaningful, and memorable.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for having me, and always happy to help.
I think no more questions. So.